Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. The highest education is that which does not merely give us information, but that makes our life in harmony with all existence. If I can't make it through one door, I will go through another door, or I will make a door. Something terrific will come, no matter how dark the present is. I slept and dreamed that life was a joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was a joy. Today, May 7th, is celebrated as the birth anniversary of India's first Nobel laureate and one of the world's most prolific poets, Rabindranath Tagore. Hearty welcome. On behalf of the Department of English, Srimati P.N. Doshi Women's College, Ghatkopar, Mumbai, I extend my hearty welcome to all of you to this national level webinar on Rabindranath Tagore and his timeless poems. Today's program is our humble homage to the legend on this birth anniversary. I welcome Dr. Asha Menon, Madam, the principal of our college. I also welcome Dr. Manju Prabha Madam, the Vice Principal of Faculty of Commerce and also the Head of the Department of English from our college. I welcome our today's guest speaker, Dr. Radhika Mukherjee. And I also welcome all the students, teachers, and other participants. Tagore's wide range of knowledge and profound understanding of life mesmerized everyone. The incredibly gifted world poet emerged as phenomenal symbol of humanity with spirituality and left an indelible mark in the literary canon. So today, let's begin our program with the national anthem followed by university song. Thank you, everybody. I request the technical team to play university song.
Okay.
परिवार
Thank you very much. Now I request Dr. Sachin Bumbi, sir, to kindly present the concept note of our today's program.
Thank you, Savita madam. I hope I am audible there.
Yes, sir, you are.
Oh, thank you. At the outset, I welcome all the dignitaries and participants to the unique endeavor of the Department of English, convened to pay tribute to the doyen of Indian literary renaissance, the great poet, philosopher, and the visionary of the 20th century, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. When I was pondering over his philosophy and his literature, his thoughts, I realized that, unlike Shakespeare, Tagore doesn't need any formal introduction. In fact, I would rather say that Tagore is not just a name, it's a legend. It's a phenomenon. And despite the scholarly efforts put in during last couple of years, it needs to be reinvestigated, rediscovered in terms of spiritual intensity, philosophical complexity, and socio-historical politico-cultural diversity as well. Tagore is known for many reasons, but one of the prominent reasons of his is his philosophy of humanism and nationalism. His views on politics and nationalism transcend the geographical and jingoistic boundaries with great sense of humanism, with great concern for spirituality and humanism. He was always liberal and rebelled against the social dogmatism. We are all aware of the rational thinking and his quest for enlightenment, which is very much evident in his path-breaking poem, Where the Mind is Without Fear. A dream of the world which is not broken up by the narrow domestic walls, where knowledge is absolutely free, and where logic and rationality region supreme. His creative vision was signified by an acute sense of tolerance, forbearance, accommodation, assimilation, and fair-minded love. Besides his preoccupation with divine concerns or undercurrents, his views on socio-political structure, interpersonal relationships, and spiritual integrity as well, that are inextricably weaved through his syntactic and semantic texture of poems, novels, dramas, and prose productions and paintings as well. And therefore, dear friends, an exploration of his genius in the recent global scenario is the demand of our time. And keeping this thought in mind, we have organized this webinar to rediscover Tagore through his timeless poems. I'm sure that today's speaker, Dr. Mukherjee, will explore the unexplored aspects of his poems and will help us pay sincerest tribute to the great visionary Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. With this concept note, I would like to invite, I would like to take charge of the session to, I would like to give charge of the session to Savita Madam.
Thank you, sir. With this wonderful note on how important and how legendary that today's topic is, let's go ahead. I request now our Madam Principal to address the gathering. Over to you, Madam Principal, Dr. Asha Madam.
Thank you, Savita Chauhan, Madam. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the national webinar, Rabindranath Tagore and his Timeless Poems, organized by the Department of English of Srimati P.N. Doshi Women's College, Mumbai. Many participants are not aware of our college, so let me take the pleasure of introducing our institution, which is 61 years old. We have been recognized as one of the top performing institutes in the country by NAC in 2017. The vision of our institution is to educate, enlighten, and empower girls. Well qualified and dedicated teachers, excellent teaching and learning process, student support like mini lunch, clothes bank, and book bank, good governance, leadership and management, and best practices like IQAC and academic and administrative audit have helped us achieve what we have today. All these have culminated not only in getting high grades in NAC, but also in fulfilling our vision to be recognized as a center of excellence for education that empowers women, leading to self-actualization. Coming back to today's webinar on Rabindranath Tagore and his timeless poems, I feel Tagore's literary work continues to resonate his creative charm and is still so relevant to all of us. He has inspired generations of people through his writings, poetry, and thoughts. Tagore was much ahead of his time, and his works were loved not only in India but across the world. As you all know, much of his acclaimed work, Gitanjali, won him the prestigious Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913. I'm not from the field of literature, so will not continue with my appreciation of Tagore's work. I'm eagerly waiting to hear from the resource person, Dr. Radhika Mukherjee, about her viewpoint on the poems of Rabindranath Tagore. Today's webinar has more than 300 participants from 6 states of our country. I congratulate the Department of English for organizing a webinar of such an interesting topic, and coincidentally today is Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore's birth anniversary too. I wish the webinar the very best. Thank you. Over to Mrs. Savita Chauhan for further proceedings. Thank you all once again.
Thank you so much, dear Madam Principal. Moving ahead, I would like to request our respected Madam Dr. Manju Prabha to have a word with the gathering. Over to you, Dr. Manju Prabha.
Thank you, Savita madam. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Radhika Mukherjee, Dr. Asha Menon, my dear colleagues, the most valuable participants. Friends, today is a glorious occasion of the celebration of 160th birth anniversary of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, the Bard of Bengal, and first non-European to receive Nobel Prize winner for literature in 1913. Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore he enriched literature as much as he did for humanity as a whole. He undoubtedly is world's most influential Indian poet, author, painter, lyricist, musician of all the time. He inspired generations of the people through his writings, through his poems, through his thoughts. This versatile genius was much ahead of time. His works are loved everywhere across the world. He understood human psyche very well. His vision of good education led him to found Vishwabharati University in Shantiniketan that has produced great minds. According to him, the good education is not about facts and dates, but about enlightenment of the mind. His primary philosophy was giving. He gave a lot to this world in terms of philanthropy, his educational institute, and of course his writings, his great poems, not that still we cherish. He always said that the one who plants trees, knowing that he will never sit in that their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of the life. Today, we cherish the Tagore legacy fondly, though through his timeless poems that continue to resonate his creative charm, and that is still relevant in 21st century. For today's celebration, our Madam Principal, Dr. Asha Menon, is present with us. I appreciate Madam for her wholehearted logistic support and her ever approachable attitude and her cordial guidance for the execution of all programs. I definitely would like to appreciate the dedicated and untiring collaborative hard work of each member of the Department of English, especially the contribution of extremely enthusiastic Mrs. Savita Chauhan for her efficient planning and making this program highly enriching and enlivening for the participants. Everybody is doing work since many days. I congratulate the entire team for their successful coordination of the program. I wish all the best for the excellence and grand success of the program. Now, nothing is more exciting than enjoying timeless poems by Guru Kavi Rabindranath Tagore with Dr. Radhika Mukherjee. Thank you once again for giving me opportunity to share my thoughts. All of you, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manju Prabha Madam. Now, yes, we all are excited to listen to our today's guest speaker, Dr. Radhika Mukherjee. But before listening to her, let's know something important about her. With this, I would like to request one of my colleagues, Mrs. Vageshwari Gore Madam, to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Radhika Mukherjee. Over to you, Madam Vageshwari.
Good evening, friends. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
It gives me immense pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Lieutenant Radhika Mukherjee. Dr. Radhika is an assistant professor in the Department of English at Satish Pradhan Jnanasadhana College, Thane. She is also a postgraduate teacher for MA at the Department of English, University of Mumbai. She is an Associate NCC Officer commissioned with Lieutenant rank at NCC Officers Training Academy, Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh in 2009. Dr. Radhika has a doctoral degree in African American literature from the University of Mumbai. She is a poet and writes on various themes such as love, God, women, friendship, life, happiness, etc. She has authored 2 books, Melodies of Heart, a collection of poems, and second book titled Glittering Pearls. She has presented multiple research papers at state, national, and international seminars. She has published many research papers and poems in international journals, books, and anthologies. She is currently on the editorial board for 3 international journals. Furthermore, she is actively involved in women empowerment and social services towards the society. That's Radhika ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
We all are eager to listen to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vageshwari Madam, for such a beautiful introduction of our today's speaker. We have also begun our session with the national anthem, which was sung by she herself, Dr. Radhika Mukherjee. That was the best befitting homage to our today's legendary personnel. So I request with this to Madam Radhika Mukherjee to proceed with her session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. A very good evening to one and all. I thank Dr. Asha Menon, the principal of Srimati P.N. Doshi College, Dr. Manju Prabha ma'am, the vice principal and the head department of English, and the entire staff of Department of English for having invited me here today for this session. Today, on the occasion of the 160th birth anniversary of Rabindranath Tagore, I would like to take this opportunity to take you back to his life and to his timeless poems that are still eternal. So I would like to share my PPT with all of you. Yes, the topic for the session is Rabindranath Tagore and his timeless poems. I have picked up 6 beautiful poems of Tagore for analysis, and I'm pretty sure you all will love reading them too. We'll come to the next slide. This slide is a pictorial representation of Tagore as a child, as an adult, and as a senior citizen. I deliberately put this slide because Tagore started writing at a very young age, and it's unbelievable age. That is, he started at the age of 8. He wrote his poems, and thereafter he published his book when he was just 16. Well, we'll come to the next slide. This slide adds more to the rare pictures that I want each one of you to have a look at. Let us now come to the next slide. This is a short biography of Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore, in Bengali, he was renowned as Rabindranath Thakur. Okay, the pronunciation goes that way. And he was born on May 7th, 1861, and he passed away on August 7th, 1941. He almost led 80 years in this world, and he has created a lot of beautiful poems, writings, and so he is known as the legend. He was largely regarded as the outstanding creative artist of the early 20th century India. He was a renowned poet, a short story writer, a composer, song composer, playwright, essayist, and a painter. Tagore introduced prose and verse forms, and he also used colloquial language into Bengali literature. Thus, he released it from the traditional representations, or we can say the models that were grounded on classical Sanskrit. Tagore's creative talents earned him the sobriquet, that is the nickname. People used to call him Gurudev, Kobi Guru, and Vishwakavi. Vishwakavi stands for world's poet. He was greatly significant in presenting our Indian culture to the West and vice versa. In 1913, he became the first non-European, first Indian, I can say first Asian to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature for his English translation of Gitanjali, that is Song Offerings. Let us come to the next slide. Rabindranath Tagore was the youngest son of Debendranath Tagore and Sharda Devi. He had 14 siblings, and he was the youngest of all. I'm sure some of you may not be familiar with all of them, so I would like to read out their names. The eldest one was Gananendranath, Satyendranath, Hemendranath, Birendra, Saudamini, Jyotindra, Sukumari, Puvendra, Sarat Kumari, Barna Kumari, Somendra, Buddhendra, and Gaganendra. And the last one was Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore had 10 brothers and 4 sisters. He was the leader of the Brahmo Samaj, which was a religious sect in the 19th century Bengal. It tried to renew the ultimate monastic basis of Hinduism as laid down in the Upanishads. Tagore was mostly educated at home. His father wanted him to be a barrister. So at the age of 17, he was sent to England for his formal schooling and studying law. But somehow he couldn't complete his studies there. Later, Tagore, along with his literary activities that was going on throughout, he also tried to manage the family estates, and that brought him closer to the local people, and he could understand the sagas and the pain of the people living around in the society. In 1883, Tagore married Mrinalini Devi, who was just 9 years old, and he was 22. This is the tradition that the girls used to be quite young and they used to marry off at the very early age. They had 5 children, namely Madhuralata, Ratindranath, Renuka, Meera, and Shamendranath. In 1901, Tagore moved to Shantiniketan. It is also known as the Abode of Peace. He moved to Shantiniketan to establish an ashram, which was a marble-floored prayer hall, the Mandir, an experimental school, groves of trees, gardens, and a library. Tagore was 14 when his mother passed away. his mother Sarda Devi passed away. Later in life, he had to encounter the death of many loved ones, one after the another. Kadambari Devi, who was his dear friend, and his brother's wife, and they used to together share lots of literature, exchange literature, and they both had a love for literature. Then his wife Mrinalini Devi, she passed away, I think in 1902, and his daughter Renuka, his father, his son Shamendranath, and daughter Madhuralita in 1908. Tagore settled permanently at the school, which later became Vishwa Bharati in 1921. In 1915, Tagore was knighted by the reigning British government, but he resigned within a very few years as a protest against the British policies in India. Tagore from time to time participated in the Indian national movement, and he was a very good friend of Mahatma Gandhi, the political father of modern India. Tagore had early success as a writer basically in his native Bengal, and with his translations of some of his poems, he became quickly recognized in the West. In fact, we can say that his reputation attained a shining stature that took him all over the world, both for his lectures, tour, and tours of friendship. That means he was invited all around the world, across the world, for delivering lectures, both and also to meet his friends. Tagore became for the India. Tagore was a living institution, and for the world, he became the voice of India's spiritual heritage. We come to the next slide. It talks about Rabindranath Tagore as a poet. Although Tagore penned marvelously in all the literary genres of literature, but first of all, he was a poet. Among his 50 and odd volumes of poetry are Bhanusimo Thakurer Padoboli, I am pronouncing it as the Bengalis do, Manoshi, that is Manasi, Sonatori, Sonartari, Gitanjali, Gitamolo, and Balok. The English translations of his poetry includes Song Offerings, The Crescent Moon, The Gardener, The Fruit Gathering, The Fugitive. We'll come to the next slide. This slide speaks about Rabindranath Tagore as a dramatist, an author, and an artist. Tagore's important plays are Raja, Bhaggor, Aschalyatin, Mukhdwara, and Raktataravi. He is also the author of several volumes of short stories and a number of novels, among them Gora, which is also known as Whitey or Fair-Faced, Ghore Bhaire, that is the home and the world, then Jogajog, it is known as Yoga Yog, Cross Currents. Beside this, Tagore wrote many musical and dance dramas, all forms of essays, travel diaries, and two biographies. Two biographies out of two. One he has written in between some time, and one just before his death. Tagore, to his credit, also has numerous drawings, paintings, and composed music for his own songs. The all-time favorite of mine, if you ask, is our national anthem, Jana Gana Mana, and Tomar Holo Shuru. That would be played as at the end of my session. We'll come to the next slide. Yeah. Remembering Tagore on his 160th birth anniversary today, here I would like to analyze few of his timeless poems that continue to resonate his creative charm and are still as relevant, and we can call it as eternal. These poems reflect upon the poet's different moods and are a must read for all. Gitanjali, Song's Offering of Rabindranath Tagore, depicts his spiritual voyage towards the Supreme Being. What happens in Gitanjali is, it is a kind of collection of his devotional songs which he has written to the Almighty God. Gitanjali appeals to the readers with its oceanic depth, expressed in simplicity. It has richness and variety, hopefulness and divine affirmation, humanization of the divine, and also the use of imagery and symbols. The relationship between the Supreme Being and the human being is revealed throughout Gitanjali. The first poem, Thou Hast Made Me Endless, and Gitanjali Song Offerings, begins commemorating and celebrating the bond and the relationship between the God and the mankind. This relationship is like it is between the soul and the supreme soul, the mind over mind, the self and the supreme self, and finally we can say mortal and the divine. As the poem reads, the first paragraph, Thou hast made me endless, such is thy pleasure. This frail vessel thou emptiest again and again, and fillst it ever with fresh life. The first stanza starts mentioning the grace of God to human being. Man is made endless with the pleasure from God. Tagore considers human body as a frail vessel, frail in the sense of fragile or tender vessel, and God occasionally repairs its damages and fills up it with a fresh life. The second paragraph, as it reads, the little float of a reed, thou hast carried over hills and dales, and hast breathed through it melodies eternally new. Here, the poet says, God is a great flute player. He is a musician, and the poet is considered to be a flute. The breath played, see, as we play the flute, naturally we have the breath in the flute. So, and then only the music comes out. The breath played through the flute comes as a melody, and it is eternally new and it lasts forever. Tagore might have considered the poet as a flute and the poem that comes out from his mouth as an eternal melody which is new forever. When we go to the third stanza, it says, At the immortal touch of thy hands, my little heart loses its limits in joy and gives birth to the utterance ineffable. Here, the poet reaches an unspeakable about the characteristic of the Almighty God. Every touch from the God touches the poet's heart. This fills his heart with happiness, joy, and cheerfulness, and it makes him in a state of extreme pleasure to be expressed. The last stanza, as it reads, Thy infinite gifts come to me only on this very small hands of mine. Ages pass, and still thou pourest, and still there is room to fill. Tagore says, God's infinite gifts come to him only through his very little hands. Further, he says, I will be the same person even when the ages pass. The poet says he has a special room in his heart, which is a room to store all the blessings that comes from God. God continues to pour his blessings to all the rooms of his heart, but still there is a room to fill. And at the end, I feel Tagore says, God is omnipresent and omnipotent. Omnipotent stands for almighty and omnipresent stands for universal. God is everywhere. We'll come to the next slide. Rabindranath Tagore's writing is highly imagistic, deeply religious, and imbibed with his love of nature and for his homeland. His poem, as Sachin sir has read out this poem just a few minutes ago, where the mind is without fear, included in the volume called Naivedya, later published in English in Gitanjali, I think unit number 35, is a prayer to a universal father figure. Father figure is God, to elevate his countrymen into a free land. The first stanza of the poem, a part of which is the title itself, holds a very significant meaning. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Fear in this line mentions to the fear that is instilled in the minds of Indians and also portrays the miserable conditions of the people which was there during the British rule. We can't even imagine because we have not seen. Most of us are born after independence, but it was a very ruthless condition, miserable condition our people were staying. The poet envisions India as a country where the people's mind are free from the fear and they live a dignified life. He also desires to convey to the people that freedom can be achieved only when our mind is fearless and our head is held high with reverence and pride. It stands for receiving respect. In the line where knowledge is free, the poet says that gaining independence would also offer them the freedom to acquire the knowledge and be independent, which was once upon a time constrained or restricted during the British Raj. The next lines, where the world has not been broken into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Here, the poet speaks about the various evils that sneaked into the society at that time. The Britishers, as we have read in history, they used divide and rule policy by creating rivalries among the different sections of the society and narrow domestic walls. It refers to the walls of religion, race, caste, and creed created by the people, and it's still continued. It may also refer to the various superstitious beliefs that prevailed during that time. Where words come out from the depth of truth, this line implies that the poet envisioned his countrymen to live their lives with honesty and utmost truth. They should be able to speak the truth. Where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, the poet here uses personification for tireless striving. The poet says one's goal should be to attain perfection, that is, to be an ideal country, and all those years of struggles would finally reach its goal of attaining freedom and perfection. The next lines, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert's sand of dead habit. The poet uses for reason and the poet uses metaphor for reason and habit. He refers to reason as a clear stream and it is pure and not contaminated. Here he is speaking about the thoughts of the people, which he says should be clear, noble, honest, and free from all kind of corruption. Dreary desert and sand of dead habit also refers to the evils in the society, which includes superstitious practices that naturally lack logic and reason. Where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. In these last three lines, the poet prays to the Almighty God for his grace, for his guidance, and for his support to attain independence from the Britishers. The poet wishes his countrymen to be led forward by their noble thoughts and actions. He also refers to freedom as a heavenly place and addresses God as Father, asking him to awaken his people from the sleep and help them to reach that glorious place, and it is independence. We'll come to the next slide. Time is endless. This poem has been taken from Unit 82 of Gitanjali, which is about the endless time. Rabindranath Tagore in this poem speaks about the nature of time. We mortal beings like you and me, we believe that time has certain limitations, and we usually feel that we need time, a lot of time, to accomplish the things before our time comes to an end. That means before our death, let us finish up all the things, we'll take up all the policies, we'll build a house so that our future of our children will be secure. So we always try to run behind the time, and we also know that time is insufficient for us and we have to do many things at a time. The poet presents the idea that the time is endless and is in the hands of God, who himself is a creator, and he is the beginning and he is the end. When we go into the analysis of the poem, the first two lines, as it reads, Time is endless in thy hand. My Lord, there is none to count thy minutes. The poem begins with the poet addressing to the Almighty God, saying that time is endless in his hand because he is the creator of time. There is no one who can count God's minutes as the life of mortals comes to an end. But time doesn't. The poet says that for God, time is infinite. It has no beginning, no end, because the God is the Alpha and the Omega. That is, He Himself is the beginning and He Himself is the end. Days and nights pass and ages bloom and fade like flowers. Thou knowest how to wait, thy centuries follow each other, perfecting a small wild flower. Here, in the poem, following lines, it says, days and nights pass and the time goes on for ages. The poet says that the Almighty patiently watches as ages pass by, and for him, they are like watching the blooming and withering of flowers. Centuries after centuries follow each other. The metaphor wildflower is used for centuries passing, and blooming and fading of flowers, which is used for the passing of ages. The passage of time is being compared to the same as the time does not stop for anyone at any point, and it keeps on going for centuries. The next line, three lines, as it reads, we have no time to lose, and having no time, we must scramble for a chance. We are too poor to be late. The poet uses sarcastic tone in the stanza where he says we have no time to lose, as he is indicating the impatience of man and is actually speaking about the infinite nature of time. They feel that they are running out of time and they must act quickly in order to not to miss out on any of the opportunities. The next lines, and thus it is the time goes by while I give it to every querulous man who claims it, and thine altar is empty of all offerings to the last. Men kept complaining about the pace at which time keeps passing as they feel it keeps racing ahead. The poet talks about the impatient nature of men. They usually rush through things and forget to value each moment. Time is divine, and for God it is infinite. At the end of the day, I hasten in fear, lest thy gate be shut, but I find that yet there is time. In the last stanza of the poem, the poet talks about the end of one's life when they feel that their time has come to an end. It is only at that time of death does one realize that even though they may cease to exist, time goes on for ages and cannot be stopped or held on to. The last line, but I find that yet there is time. The last line of the poem leaves the reader with a sense of uncertainty, unpredictability, I can say, as the poet might hit on the metaphysical aspects of reincarnation, which we can also call as life after death. He might also mean that at the end of our lives, we find the gates of the heaven wide open and we realize that time is divine in nature and will continue to go on. We'll come to the next slide, freedom. Freedom is a very beautiful and one of the distinguished poem written by Tagore. The poem is about his motherland, India, which was written during the period when India was colonized under the British rule. India was fighting, it's one of the greatest freedom struggle during that time. The poem is also depicting the brutality borne by the country and it's trying to envision its past and future. As we analyze the poem, freedom from fear is the freedom from the fear is the freedom I claim for you, my motherland. Freedom from the burden of the ages, bending your head, breaking your back, blinding your eyes to the beckoning call of the future. Tagore himself was a freedom fighter, and he strongly desired for the complete freedom of his nation. For him, the real freedom is the freedom from the fear. The poet is wishing that his countrymen should be free from the fear of oppression by its colonized rulers, that is, the Britishers. He says his motherland is in slavery under the British rule for ages. The poet personifies India as a weak lady, a burden that has bent her head, broken her back, blinded her eyes, and now she is so weak that she can't even realize the signaling or beckoning call of the future. The poet is sad that the people of India has lost their hope in a better future. They gave up in a way. The next lines, freedom from the shackles of slumber, wherewith you fasten yourself in night stillness, mistrusting the star that speaks of truth's adventurous paths, freedom from the anarchy of destiny, whose sails are weakly yielded to the blind uncertain winds, and the Helen to a hand ever rigid and cold as death. Well, these are the most, I can say, difficult lines in the poem. The poet is describing the brutality and the injustice the country has gone through. The poet uses metaphor for night as the dark age of the British rule. India has tied herself to the darkness and to the silence of the night. In the sky of the dark night, there is a star that speaks of the truth and the adventurous path. But saddened, India is not in a position to understand or trust the guiding star. The anarchy of destiny means the country was heading towards an undetermined future, and the path was governed by random, uncertain events which were difficult to predict. The people believed in destiny and they also believed in the blind faith, that is superstition. The poet uses metaphor for India as a sailboat. He says India is like a sailboat or a ship that is surrendering to the winds. Winds is Britishers, colonizers. And the captain of the ship is like a dead man. His his hands are frozen and rigid. Therefore, the poet says, India, you need to free yourself from the anarchy of destiny. The last five lines, as it reads, freedom from the insult of dwelling in a puppet's world, where movements are started through brainless wires, repeated through mindless habits, where figures wait with patience and obedience for the master of show to be stirred into a mimicry of life. These are the most golden lines in the poem. The poet uses metaphor for puppet's world as foolish life of obeying the Britishers. He says he wants his countrymen to be free from being controlled like a puppeteer controls the puppets. The rules and regulations laid down by the British system who were unjust, which has been followed without raising any queries, without raising any questions. So the poet feels like every action of India at that time was brainless and mindless. The life they were living is just the mimicry of life, which is fake as it is controlled by others. Therefore, he desires that India should be free from the humiliation. We'll come to the next poem, Paper Boats. Paper Boats is a nice poem of Tagore taken from his collection, The Crescent Moon. This poem is on a childhood experience. The poem narrates the child's experience of floating paper boats down the stream. And I hope each one of you have definitely tried it in your childhood days, maybe in the flowing water, maybe in a small tap, maybe in the rain water, maybe in the small nalas also, you can say, which we have outside the house. Maybe that also, maybe in a small pond, but then we might have tried it someday in our childhood. The poem shows the child's peculiar psychology. When we look into the poem, as it reads, day by day I float my paper boats, one by one down the running stream. In big black letters, I write my name on them and the name of the village where I live. The child in this poem loves the world of playfulness and fun. Day by day, he prepares his paper boat and he floats it down this running stream. He sends them with an intention that one day it will reach to some distant land and somebody would read it. Out of curiosity, in bold letters, he writes his name and addresses on name and address on those boards. The next lines, I hope that someone in some strange land will find them and know who I am. He fondly hopes that, because he has written the name and address, and he anticipates that, it will reach to some distant land and somebody will pick up the boat, they'll come to know whose boat it is, and because he has written the name and address and from where the boat has come. So in a way, people are going to recognize him. And Lord, my little boat will surely flower from a garden. The child has always a deep sense of love. He wishes to present the unknown friend, whoever gets his boat, he wants to present them with valuable gifts. So he loads his boat with shuli flower. The shuli flower is known as parijat flowers. Parijat in English is also known as jasmine, which has yellow colored tender stems. Okay, that he plucks from his garden. The next lines, and hope that these blooms of the dawn will be carried safely to the land in the night. When the child looks up, he sees the white clouds sailing in the sky. See the little clouds setting their white blugging sails. He hopes that, here the child hopes that the boats will carry the flowers safely to the distant land in the night. He imagines that he has a friend in the sky. As the child launches his paper boats, he also looks up in the sky and he is surprised to see the clouds floating in the sky. The clouds appear to him like the white sails of a boat, blugging, that is expanded in the wind. Further, I know not what playmate of mine in the sky sends them down in the air to race with my boats. Now he wonders, the child wonders, who might be the friend in the sky who is sending the clouds floating through the sky to race with my boats. In a way, he's happy also. The child imagines that the clouds floating in the sky and his boats floating in the stream, both are running a race. When night comes, I bury my face in my arms and dream that my paper boats float on and on under the midnight stars. The fairies of sleep are sailing in them, and the landing ends their baskets full of dreams. The concluding stanza says, at the night the child sees dreams in his sleep. He dreams about his paper boats, and he's happy to know that angels are sailing in his boat after loading them with the basket full of dreams. Thus, the poem shows Tagore's keen insight into the child's mind. So this also shows his uniqueness. Tagore not only wrote for the adults, not only for the children, but for all age group people. We'll come to the next slide. Yes. This is Rabindranath Sangeet, Tomar Holo Shuru. Both transliteration and translation, both are done in English. Tomar Holo Shuru, Amar Holo Shara. You begin when mine is done. Tomai amai mile, emne bohe dhara. You and me unitedly fulfill the flow. Tomar jwale bhati, tomar ghore shati. You have lights, friends at home. Amar tare rati, amar tare tara. Dark nights wait for me, lots of stars. Tomar ache danga, amar ache jol. You have land to rest on, depth of water for me. Tomar boshe thaka, amar chola chol. You have time to relax, movement is for me. Tomar hote roy, amar hote khoy. Your hands give protection, mine consume. Tomar mone bhoy, amar boy hara. Fear is in your mind, mine is fearless. This is a very beautiful song which I really like it, and it goes this way. Tomar holo shuru, amar holo shara. So now I would like to conclude this session with this beautiful song sung by Rupankar. And thank you.
Thank you so much, our technical team. We are really enjoying what not, but the love for freedom, songs, music, spirituality, freedom, positivity, and hopefulness. Everything. Thank you so much, today's speaker, Dr. Radhika Mukherjee, for making us all aware that what a legacy that we all have. And I'm quite sure that even the spirit of our dear Rabindranath Ji Tagore would surely bless all of us on this very day of his birth anniversary, because our country today really needs his blessings. So moving ahead, I would request my colleague, Dr. Shivaji Methe sir, to proceed with the question answer session for the day.
Am I audible there?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Savita ma'am. A warm good evening to all of you. It was indeed a great pleasure to listen to you, Dr. Radhika Mukherjee, on Rabindranath Tagore's timeless poems. And you have dexterously, adroitly analyzed Tagore's poem. Almost 5 poems you have analyzed. And madam, I must tell you that your talk will definitely ignite the creative and critical minds among the audience, and they will definitely revisit Gurudev's literature with a new perspective. However, there are a few questions for you. Rather, I would say you may call them as doubts, right? So as you have rightly mentioned that Rabindranath Tagore has been acclaimed across the world. So can we call Rabindranath Tagore as an international poet then?
Yes, sir. Thank you for this question. Yes, Tagore was an international poet because he was the first European, first Indian, I can say first Asian to receive the Nobel Prize for literature for a song's offering. That is Gitanjali, the translated version. So naturally, when he was writing in Bengali, he was writing for the Bengali people, the Bengal state. But then when he started translating it into English, not only the people of other states in India, but also the people from all over the world read his poem, and then he got this Nobel Prize. So we can see that he is a international poet.
Okay. In connection with that, ma'am, I would just like to ask you one more thing. Since most of the students are listening to the session, and they would be eager to know what is exactly the Nobel Prize in Literature. Would you please throw light on that?
Yes, the Nobel Prize in Literature is one of the many Nobel Prizes given in the honor of Alfred Nobel. Every year to a writer who is chosen by the Swedish Academy to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature. They chose someone whom they feel that they have written something of great value, and Tagore was one of them and the first person.
So, thank you, ma'am, for the answer. I would also like to ask you something, since you have translated few of the poems of Gurudev from Bengali to English. And all of us know that our national anthem is also written by Gurudev. Can you
Yes, sir.
translate that national
I
anthem into English and recite that for the students and the participants of the national webinar?
Sure, why not? Say actually, I wanted to incorporate the translation of Janagana Mana, which was translated by Tagore himself when he visited the Besant Theosophical College in Mandapalli, Andhra Pradesh in 1919. That was on 20th of February. So there the authorities were enthralled by the song, and they adopted the English version of the song, which was translated by the bard himself. And I wanted to incorporate it in this session, but like as the time constraint is there, and like if we keep on adding, and it will be like listeners also should be able to like wait for such a long hour. So I thought this question might come up, so I was ready with it. The English version by Tagore is, the title he has given is The Morning Song of India. It goes, "Thou art the ruler of the minds of all people, dispenser of India's destiny. Thy name roses the hearts of Punjab, Sindhu, Gujarat and Maratha, of the Dravida and Orissa and Bengal. It echoes in the hills of Vindhya and Himalayas, mingles in the music of Ganga and Yamuna, and is chanted by the waves of the Indian Sea. They pray for thy blessings and sing thy praise. The saving of all people waits in thy hand, thou dispenser of India's destiny. Victory, victory, victory to thee."
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you for this question and answer session. Thank you for giving wonderful answers. And definitely, there are a lot of appreciations. There are very good words in the YouTube channel. And we don't have any question after this. Over to you, Savita ma'am, for further proceeding.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Shivaji Mehte and Dr. Radhika madam, for a very good session. We could also get much more information regarding Ravindranath ji through this. Then I would just like to have an announcement about the certificates. Participants who will be giving us the feedback, the link would be shared in the chat box and also in the group with which you have already connected with us. So please fill that feedback and you will be receiving your participants' certificates. With this, I would like to request my colleague, Dr. Vinod Jalte sir, to offer his formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Vinod sir.
Yeah, thank you, Savita ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Honorable dignitaries, distinguished speaker, teachers, and my dear students, on behalf of Department of English, I am honored and pleased to propose a vote of thanks for this national webinar titled Rabindranath Tagore on his timeless poems. I extend hearty thanks to Lieutenant Dr. Radhika Mukherjee, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Sadish Pradhan, Gnan Sadhana College, Thane, for extremely relevant talk. Madam has focused on the life of Rabindranath Tagore, Tagore as a poet, dramatist, and artist. Through the selected poems of Tagore, Madam highlighted the universal appeal in his poems, poetic sensibility and relevance, and apart from that, a spirit of absolute humility, liberation and free environment, endlessness of time, desire for complete freedom, childhood experiences, and also enlightened us through her, through the translations she has done. Thank you, Dr. Radhika ma'am. I take this opportunity to express my deep regards and gratitude to the management of our college, Managing Trustee Mrs. Meena Ben Khetani, Director Dr. S. Kumudavali for always encouraging us to organize such events. I take this opportunity I would especially thank to our principal, Dr. Asha Menon, for her unfaltering support and confidence in us. I would extend hearty thanks to Mr. Bhanudas Satam for all the technical support and helping us to broadcast our webinar. Last but not the least, I express my deep sense of appreciation and thanks to all the enthusiast participants who choose to be live with us and attend the webinar and make it successful. I end this with the lines from selected from Gitanjali. I quote, "Have you not heard his silent steps? He comes, ever comes. Every moment and every age, Every day and every night he comes, ever comes. And that is the universal appeal of Rabindranath Tagore. With this, thank you very much. Over to you, ma'am. Over to you, Savita, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Once again, we pay our humble tribute, sincere tribute to the legendary Rabindranath Ji Tagore. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. See you later.